So, Future has finally released his new record titled I Never Liked You. It's been around 2 years since we've gotten a new Future album. I believe the last one was High Off Life, which if you guys follow my channel, you guys know how much I enjoyed that record. I put it in my best albums of 2020 year list. But yeah, as I said, honestly, a perfect time for Future to drop. Because a few months ago, I was listening to Dirty Sprite 2, which is known to be one of his magnum opuses. And honestly, I do think that's one of his best projects. It gives him the signature sound, the signature style that made him so relevant and popular today. As I said earlier, honestly, I was extremely hyped for this record. Mostly because there's a track with Travis and Southside that he was a part of. And honestly, I think he killed it alongside Travis, even though I think Travis did a little better. I was excited, but apparently that wasn't a single for this record, which makes it even crazier. The album was here, as I said in the intro. What do I think about it? I honestly think this record is just even better than High Off Life. It's honestly another W for Future in his discography. This record starts off strong with 7:12 p.m., which honestly I personally think it's a better intro than Trapped in the Sun. It honestly reminds me a bit of Thought It Was a Drought from Dirty Sprite 2. Just another legend. It reminds me more of a legendary opening, and it's honestly a perfect intro track for this record. It doesn't waste time at all. From this track in the get-go as well, we could just see that Future is just being himself. And honestly, people might just look at this as just stale, generic trap lyrics, and they're like, why are you praising this or whatever. Honestly, the reason why I praise this is because Future is being himself. He's being extremely comfortable in this track. He knows how he wants to plan this. He knows he wants to be the most toxic person of all time. I mean, right at the get-go with the freaking title, I Never Liked You. This is a big F-U to all the chicks he's been with, the continuous years that he's been extremely popular and relevant in the trap industry. And honestly, this is, as I said, this is his whole image, he's not really playing a character, this is him being himself. He's this toxic. I guess that's sort of the main concept this record has attached to it. The second track on that just solidifies him being, him saying that I'm the one who's gonna steal your hoes, I'm the one who has a bunch of girls in his line. I think part of Future's main goal for this record, and I would say for almost all of his records, it's just to give his audience the most toxic anthems you'll ever hear. I mean, some classics that he has are like Mask Off, March Madness, Thought It Was a Drought. Another redeeming aspect of this record is the feature list. I mean, we have features ranging from Kanye to Gunna Young Thug to Drake and Tems, EST GEE, Kodak Black surprisingly is in here. I was honestly surprised they were gonna put that one track that was meant for Donda too, featuring Future originally, but apparently it's for Future's record, and this one sounds complete. I remember listening to part of this song and it felt like really undercooked and underfinished, but this time it's solidified. We actually have full-length verses instead of just like little demo bits and pieces from that live stream that was pretty mid. I'm just really happy that we have this track available. For a Nut is a disgusting track. It really is a disgusting track. I don't want to talk about Gunna's nut stain on someone's sweater. That is just really disgusting to think about. I don't want to think about it. But the reason why I like this track is mostly because it reminds me of that So Much Fun Young Thug era, where he was just saying the most obnoxious things. I mean, Barter 6 as well can, this really applies for any Young Thug record for the most, but I think specifically with that record, it had so many like weird bars, like just nut on this, nut on that, high intensity and high melody focus and stuff like that. I think For a Nut fits more on that aspect, and they just all go hard in the track. They all complement each other really well. As I said earlier, there are a lot of anthems in here. There are a lot of like toxic anthems in here that Future shares for the public. Puffin and ZOOTIEZ is another one that's just overall really vibey, really low-key. It seems to be working in that 130, 120-ish BPM type of range. But as I said, it just slides on this beat so nicely. It's like buttery, and every time I listen to the track, it just reminds me of the album cover. Everything reminds me of the album cover, that it's just reminding us that he's sleeping on everybody. He's going to sleep on his haters, the hosts who are after him, the hosts that are after him, the toxic people who are after him. He's sleeping on everybody. He does not care. He's just relaxing and chilling. Going back to the feature thing, Wait For You featuring Drake and Tems is a great addition to the record. It's honestly interesting how they use Tems, being used more as a sample than really as, I guess, a whole verse, a whole chorus in the track, which is honestly fine. I mean, Drake gives a pretty solid performance in here, and Future as well. We have sort of a lovey-dovey type of track in here where Future is waiting for this girl, which is kind of ironic. and sure, a little bit hypocritical. There are some moments in here where it's like, you know, sort of an eye roll here and there, because it's like, okay, I thought you told me you never liked this person. This track is one of the exceptions of the record, I guess you could say. But going back to the whole concept, I guess if you could call it, you know, you would expect with I Never Liked You being possibly the most toxic record of this year. As I said, being a huge FU to the people who have tried to steal from him, I guess all the baby mamas who tried to squeeze a lot of money out of him from child support and things like that, and just him avoiding the entire thing, which obviously is a bad thing to do. But anyway, going on with this, it's ironic that there are some lovey-dovey tracks, as I said, with Wait For You, which I think is the obsession because it's a great track. There's some tracks that are lovey-dovey, but just don't really stick well. Love You Better, for instance, is just an undercooked 2-minute track where I'm just, you know, asking myself, what is the purpose of this? I mean, I feel that it has a good idea, you know. For lovey-dovey track, it's not necessarily bad, and following after Wait For You is a great continuation. I mean, it makes sense in paper, but once you listen to the track, you're like, you know, it just sounds like he's drowning in his vocals, talking about his sorrows or whatnot, but it doesn't come off as great. It just comes off as just messy, and just like a lot of things are going on at the same time. It's kind of a waste of a good idea, in my opinion. The track Back to Basics, which is actually the final track of the record, kind of seems kind of pointless. I mean, I get that, you know, a part of the concept of this record could be like, oh, I never liked you, but then at the end it's like, okay, now I like you, and we resolve things, you know, we can go back to step one, I'll apologize, and we'll get together. I get that, but it just doesn't work when you have so many like trap anthems and bangers going on left and right, like if it was a mixtape type of phase. Honestly, the vocal performance in this track is just not that good. It's just kind of messy and kind of sloppy as well. It's just kind of ironic that he says he wants to cry on her shoulder when the entire record is just him saying, you know, I'm just the most toxic person ever. I don't need to lean on somebody's shoulder. I need to be relying on people. I'm relying on myself, about hosts and things like that. It's just kind of hypocritical and ironic at the same time. But I don't think it's necessarily the detriment of this record. I think overall, as the record progresses, we get even more bangers and bangers, his Future being himself. And as I said, there are some hypocritical moments here and there, but if you, I guess, eliminate those moments from the record and just focus on the toxic bangers left and right, you'll enjoy a hefty amount of this record. Track like Misogyny, even though being almost the same length as Love You Better, pump the gas a bit more after the previous track. Chickens is a great next track featuring SG, which honestly I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that SG is getting his flowers. But yeah, he goes off in this one. Honestly, it's a bit different than what I was anticipating. I thought he would be like a bit more aggressive here, whatnot. Well, he's aggressive in this track. It's not like super hood, angry type that he has typically in his records, which is honestly fine because he's matching more of the beat, since the synthesizers in the background a bit more, you know, laid down, a bit more chill, but it has like this up-tempo type of vibe. We Just Want to Get High is another track that honestly completes this great 3-track run we have left and right. Another short banger, honestly. And I was surprised that Kodak Black was featured in this album, in the track VOODOO. Honestly, I don't hate the track, and I thought that I wasn't gonna like it because, you know, Kodak being Kodak, he typically has these very either monotone performances or just like these bars that he lays that just causes me to have an eye roll or just be like, why am I listening to this in the first place? And I will say this, he tried to put in some energy, I guess. He tries to sing a bit more. Sure, the auto-tune, sure you can hear the auto-tune dominating his vocals by a mile. But I guess he's trying, you know, he tried a little bit in this track. I wasn't a huge fan of this track because, you know, once you listen to the record 3 times, I listened to the track I listened to the album like 3 times consecutively the day it came out, which is yesterday. Get to the point where VOODOO is kind of like that one track where it has this like piano chord progression that sounds like something you would get in a Juice WRLD track or a Apology track or a Lil Durk track that you've been hearing again and again. I personally feel that there's nothing that's offering me to stay, but I don't think this track is necessarily bad. It's just not meant for me personally. Another track that I kind of felt the same way is The Way Things Going, which it just reminded me again of the same complaints. Kind of a generic piano chord progression that you've already heard a gazillion times if you're into the sad emo type of trap aesthetics. There was one track in High Off Life that sounded really similar to these tracks featuring NBA Youngboy, but the only difference is that NBA Youngboy had a great performance in there. He really outdid himself in that track, which honestly was very impressive. It's not like What's Your Name level, but in terms of the track, it sort of is. The track Holy Ghost is honestly a Goliath type of banger. Like this, it sounds like this guy just went with the, I forgot his name, the freaking composer, the Final Fantasy 7 game. It sounds like he got the freaking Sephiroth, the Sephiroth theme vocals from the remaster. From the remake, and just put it in this beat, because we just hear these shouts. We just hear this like choir sitting in the background giving out these shouts and shouts. Actually, no. It's not Final Fantasy. It's one for Star Wars. It just, if you listen to the track, you can hear in one aspect where you hear like these choir shouts just going in one segment. I think it's more the hook or the chorus segment, and the whole track as a whole is surrounded by these really mysterious set of strings that just sound evil. It just matches the title, Holy Ghost. I feel like I'm listening to a ghost. Like I feel like I'm listening to a ghost rap right now, because this whole track just feels like freaking undead. It feels like if I was like in a graveyard and Future was rapping his ass off, and like the freaking ghost reviving to it. I don't know how I got to that freaking comparison, but I just had that on my mind. But yeah, My One featuring Drake is a bit underwhelming. It's kind of like basic nowadays Drake. He didn't really add anything to this track worth listening to. It's kind of like standard Drake and Future type. I mean, if you're into that standard Drake and Future collaboration, like without the weird beat switch that happens almost like in the first minute or two of the track, then I guess it's for you. I honestly think this is a bit too basic for me personally, compared to what this record has to offer. What the record overall with 16 tracks has to offer. There are like easily like 10 or 8 tracks are just way better than this track, honestly. And it's a shame, because you would expect Future featuring Drake, you would have some legendary vibes. So overall, I think I Never Liked You is a great addition to Future's discography. I can just feel the high replay value from this. As I said, I listened to this record 3 times consecutively. I almost never do that. I typically listen to a record like once or twice when it releases, just to give it some time to breathe. But no, like I was just like desperate to listen to it again and again. It was just stuck in my head, honestly. But as I said, honestly, this record is one of the better it's one of the better records from Future, and I cannot wait what this guy has in store for the future, as I said. So yeah, what would I get this record? I'm gonna go with a strong 7 in this record, probably a 7.5-ish out of 10 for this record. As I said, replay value is really high. There are some fun trap bangers in this, and yeah, definitely give this record a listen. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below, leave a comment, let me know what you want me to review next or just talk about next in the future. And yeah, subscribe, turn notification bell on so you don't miss an upload from me. And yeah, peace out everybody, and stay safe from COVID.